experience to share because I'm just starting, but as I was trying to read the poem. So when you try to think of how to select something to read, sometimes you just leave it up to your higher power or whatever, and it just happens that Frank gave the perfect introduction. I had no choice but to read this poem as he talked about his experience at the Grace Church Women's Homeless Shelter. I was approached by the women of that shelter. One can usually find me in White Plains at the library every day. The library is Westchester County. It's so fantastic. There was computers available. Wow. But that's where I hang out. If you want to find me, I'm at the library. Well, the women of the shelter found me one day, a few months ago, because, sadly to say, the shelter was being closed down. It's known as Samaritan House. You might have read it in the papers or whatnot. It was quite a controversy. And the women were organizing to keep it open. And they approached me and said, "Dave, do something, please." And I said, "What can I do?" And they said, "Write something." Well, I wrote a piece. 2 days later, it was on the front page of the Journal News. And so with Frank's introduction, I said, that's the piece I have to read tonight.
Yes.
This is called The Priest's Dilemma. There is a church in my town. It is different than most. It houses the homeless. It feeds the hungry. It gives clothes to the needy. The church is a new neighbor. Right next to the church, which houses the women's shelter upstairs, 50 feet from the altar, they call it Trump Towers, and it is being built to provide housing for very wealthy people who will pay nearly $1 million for an apartment. Right next to the church, it is so different, which houses a homeless shelter for women upstairs. To whom will the priest of this church that is so different now preach the words of Christ? Will it be to the women of the homeless shelter, whose anguished cries and emotional pain call out for faith and healing? Or to the wealthy new tenants in the tower, who may be blind and deaf to the cries of their neighbors next door? And who is more needy of the word? And what of the passerby walking on the sidewalk in front of these odd neighbors? Will he stop to make the sign of the cross in front of the church that is so different? Or instead, will he pause to dream in front of the glass window next door, reflecting shimmering chandeliers and fountains of water spurting forth a rainbow of colored lights, imagining utopia or Eden right here, next to the church that is so different? And what of the congregation of this church that is so different? Will its newest members be a part of the Brotherhood of Man? Or will Sunday Mass be simply an extension of the different worlds on the same street, same church, different pew? I think perhaps this all may be a little more than the investors planned on. I think perhaps someone must go, "Oh, did you hear? The women's shelter is closing."